My name is Tim. I'm a 40-year-old white-collared office worker. I was dating someone until recently. Her name was Sarah, and she's 2 years younger than me. We met at a party. I was almost not going to attend that party. I was invited by a junior colleague from work. He told me to just show up for a few minutes. I agreed to participate and accompanied him. I thought as a 40-year-old man, it'd be out of place. Surprisingly, the participants were similar in age. I was relieved that this would be a fun event, and enjoyed talking to people I'd never met before. And then, one of the participants approached me and came on to me strongly. Her name was Sarah. She and I like some of the same artists. We share the same brand of cigarettes, the same favorite foods, etc. We had very similar interests and tastes. We hit it off, and Sarah started to invite me out on dates and dinner. Then we started dating and continued to date for a while.
Tim, the food is delicious,
Sarah told me. Really? That's probably because I've been living alone for a long time and often cooked and fed younger brother and sister when my mother was busy at work, I replied.
Oh, you have a brother? I'd like to meet him sometime,
she said cheerfully. I didn't think of it at that time. She never mentioned my sister, only my brother. I now think it may have been a manifestation of her love for men. She and I started dating a year and a half ago. From the beginning, she had a bit of a bossy attitude.
Tim, is the food not ready yet?
Became her catchphrase. Wait a bit, I'm making it now, I said in my haste to start cooking.
What? But I'm hungry. You have a poor sense of timing,
she said as she got upset. A few months after we started dating, she moved into my house. But even though we are both working, she doesn't do any housework. I don't tell her to do housework because she's a woman. But I think it's only fair. We should share the responsibilities. Even though she gets home before I do, she lounges on the sofa and watches television. Even though I came home from work and quickly start dinner, she still complains.
What? Beans again? Can't you make something fancier? How about sushi? It's healthy,
she said sullenly. No, I don't have the ingredients to make sushi now. And even if I did, it would be a pretty late time to eat, I replied.
What? What are you talking about? It's easy, isn't it? You really have a poor sense of timing. If you don't have the ingredients, just go to the supermarket and buy them already.
Sarah would use me as she pleased, ordering me around depending on her mood at the time. And she made fun of my looks, among other things.
You're really ugly, aren't you?
Every time she saw a good-looking celebrity on TV, she would make me feel bad by comparing him to me and say mean things. Other times, she would call me old man, but honestly, she's only 2 years younger than me. I can't help but think that I am undesirable because she calls me an old man. My girlfriend gets irritated and tries to make herself feel better by belittling me when things don't go her way. But when she's normal, she can be quite sweet.
I love you, Tim.
For example,
I'm only happy when I'm with you, Tim.
She would tell me that and other similar sweet words. That's why when my girlfriend says mean things, I can't help but think that maybe it's just her way of expressing love and her spoiled nature. Looking back, I realized that it was quite an implausible interpretation, even for me. I realized that love is truly blind, as the saying goes. Then after another year of dating, she gradually started to come home later. There have been so many days where all I received were cold messages like,
I don't eat dinner today. I have to work late.
I can count how many days ended like that. And during those times, it can be said without fail, when she come back, there was always the smell of alcohol. When I told her about the alcohol smell, she would reply rather curtly,
I've just had one drink with colleagues after work.
She responded with an attitude. It's obvious that she's flush red and has drank a lot more than just one drink. If I said any more, she would scream back 100 times louder, so I had no choice but to keep quiet. But in her jacket pocket, she had a card from a gentleman's club. A phone number was scribbled on the card. When I saw it, all I could do was sigh. Well, I guess when work is busy, one might need some time to relax. But we're dating. Why would she go to such a place? Even when I'm called an old man or ugly, I thought my girlfriend still loved me as a man. But lately she doesn't do things like that anymore. She's been satisfying her own desires elsewhere. Can we really call this a relationship? But in the middle of all that, Sarah made a surprising move.
How about we go for sushi today? I'll treat you.
What's wrong? I asked, puzzled. She looked embarrassed.
Nothing. Just a thank you,
she said. I thought she was cute when she spoke shyly. I want to eat sushi with a cheerful mood. The sushi at the upscale restaurant was very good, and we went home after enjoying our meal to the fullest.
I bought a good wine. Want to drink it together?
Oh, thanks. It would be a normal conversation for a couple, but since she hasn't been doing things like that lately, I was quite surprised. Today is not a special anniversary. It's not my birthday or hers. So why would she do that? I even wondered if there might be something behind her actions. Then Sarah, looking embarrassed, uttered a few words of surprise.
Well, we've been dating for a long time, haven't we? I think I want to get married soon.
It was a reverse proposal. It was so sudden that I was taken aback. As I stared wide-eyed and froze, Sarah said,
Is it no good?
I apologized. Sorry, it was sudden. I honestly said how I felt. I was definitely happy, but I thought I should express my concerns clearly. I am very happy that you are thinking about marriage. But Sarah, you have been playing around with me, and I know you've been going to a gentleman's club and drinking with other men. What is the reason why you still want to marry me despite that? When I asked her that, she looked straight at me and said,
That's because I knew that if I was going to get married, you were the only one I would marry. I'm sure I said a lot of horrible things to you. I'm really sorry for everything I said. I took your kindness for granted. I will never hurt you again, Tim. I promise. So, marry me.
When she told me straight out, I couldn't help but be moved by her words. And so, I proposed to her. Marriage, at last. I was suddenly happy. But after that, it was more of the same.
Hey, old man, get me a beer,
she said as she plopped down on the couch. I held back and said, Didn't you promise not to call me old man? She made a face like she was annoyed and said,
What's the big deal? You look like an old man.
I don't look like one at all.
What? Don't get on my case every time I say something like that. You're such a pain in the ass.
It's because you broke your promise. We made that promise when you proposed, didn't we? I couldn't stop myself from speaking and shouted, If we're going to be together forever, I can't put up with this kind of behavior. Sarah, being Sarah, replied,
What? Then I shouldn't have proposed to you in the first place.
Grabbing a beer with an irritated look, she retreated to her own room. We always end up arguing like that. On another day, she said,
Don't act like you're something special just because you're not good-looking, old man. I would rather be with a young man than someone like you, old man.
The way she said that instantly made me defeated. Then you should just find a young man and be with him, I retorted with strong words. But you're an old woman and no young man will take you, so you're compromising with me, I told her. When I said something provocative, she would get furious.
Don't you even feel grateful that you were lucky enough to be chosen by me?
Sarah said. I wanted to understand her true meaning, so I asked directly, being chosen by you is luck and I should be grateful? Is that how you see it? If it's not equal to you, I want to end the marriage. I tried to say, but she responded with,
Okay, then nothing.
After our fight, she always stays in her room with a beer. Looking back, I think she drank a lot of alcohol then. Because she drinks a lot, she gets short-tempered, and her words become harsher toward me. And the next morning, she apologized by saying,
I'm sorry, it's my fault. You're the only one for me. I'm sorry for being such a bad girlfriend, but I still want to marry you.
When she put it like that, I always end up forgiving her for some reason or another. After all this, it has already been a few months since the proposal, despite all the ups and downs. We finally started making arrangements for our wedding. First, we had to meet each other's parents. I'd never met our parents before, but they were very kind and agreed to our marriage, and now it was her turn to come see my parents. My brother, Dan, who lives at home, was the first to greet her. Welcome, Sarah. Sarah also replied happily.
Dan, long time no see.
Sarah has come to my house a few times. My mother, of course, has already met her, as well as my brothers and sisters. Today was the first time she'd meet my father. My dad is a friendly guy. Sarah also seemed to enjoy talking to my father. After talking for a while, my brother spoke up. So, you're getting married, Tim? I didn't think you'd beat me to it. I chuckled at my brother. It's true. You're a very popular guy, but you're still single. But you're already in your 30s too. Time really flies, huh? I replied. Yes, you're not a little boy anymore. My mother teased. Hey, Mom, don't keep teasing me about my childhood forever, said my brother, pretending to be angry. This was a usual exchange for us. In fact, my brother and I are quite a few years apart in age. He's now 28. In other words, I'm 40 years old. I'm 12 years older than him. Even though he's around 30, my brother has a pretty face. He looks like he's still in his early 20s. So even my brother, who is a popular man according to himself and others, gets treated like a child at home. My family also accepted our marriage, and Sarah and I steadily moved forward with our marriage preparations. But in the midst of that, she broke up with me. I didn't understand it. We're supposed to meet each other's families soon, I said, to which Sarah replied,
Meeting our families? It's alright. We can cancel it.
She said and laughed. I still didn't understand what was going on. I was just about to ask Sarah when the doorbell rang. Just as I was wondering who it could be, my brother appeared. Although I was confused by a sudden visit, I apologized. Dan, sorry. I'm glad you came, but I'm in the middle of something. My brother smiled and replied, It's okay. I'm a part of it too, he said when he came into the house. When I followed him, my younger brother said, Mi amor, Sarah, or something like that, and then he hugged his girlfriend. I couldn't understand the situation at all.
Look, this is what happened,
Sarah said as she wrapped her arms around my younger brother's waist. Then my brother said, Sorry, I fell in love with Sarah, and she likes me more than you, so I'll marry her instead. Sorry. Sarah, who was supposed to marry me, told me right before our wedding that she had chosen to be with my younger brother instead. I was so shocked that I almost fainted on the spot. Ignoring me, Sarah said,
Well, we're moving to our new home.
She went to her room to get her things and came back out. It seems like she had already packed her stuff. My older brother will be alone, but he's already 40, right? Is it okay for him to be alone forever like this? I felt nothing but disgust towards my younger brother, and he laughed triumphantly. Even after the two of them left, I stood there in a daze for a while. What was all that time I spent with Sarah? When I think calmly about it, she was just a bitch, but she had a lovable side. When I lost her, a deep sadness overwhelmed me. I cried for a while. I contacted friends and talked to my sister on the phone, and finally my feelings started to settle down. As I calmed down, I became more rational. When I became rational, pure anger and frustration towards my wife and my brother sprouted forth. I wanted to take revenge on them. I wanted to do something that will make her regret leaving me. I thought of something and decided to take revenge. When I told my younger sister this idea, she fully cooperated. A few days later, the day of the meeting between our two families came. It seems like she hasn't told her parents yet. Her parents told me, "Thank you for marrying Sarah." My parents also hadn't heard anything from my brother. "Where are Tim's parents?" They introduced themselves as. At this point, my brother says, "Actually, I am the one who is going to marry Sarah." Both families were startled. They started asking Sarah and my brother what was going on, and the focus started to shift to me. So I just shrugged my shoulders and said, "Sarah and I just broke up recently. It seems she is with Dan now." I said it as if it were nothing. Both parents were angry, but since I was not angry anymore, I convinced both families to approve the marriage. Thus, with this uncomfortable atmosphere, the meeting between the two families came to an end. So then, my brother and Sarah are soon going to have a wedding ceremony. They are both grateful that I followed through and invited me to their wedding. I wasn't the groom and went to the wedding as a groomsman. When the time for the ceremony approached, a lot of people had gathered. I headed to the bride and groom's waiting room. When I entered the waiting room, the two were talking in a very friendly manner. Originally, the place where my brother stood belonged to me, but now I don't envy him anymore. When I entered the waiting room, I said, "Congratulations on your marriage, Sarah and Dan." They were surprised when I came in, but they approached me, grinning.
"You've got great mental strength,"
Sarah said to me.
"In a normal situation, if a woman switches to her husband's younger brother, you wouldn't come to the family meeting, less the wedding, would you?"
I knew my older brother had one screw missing. My younger brother laughed. I smiled gently at them. "Are you happy switching to my brother?" Sarah blew up angrily.
"Isn't it obvious? Who wouldn't find Dan more attractive, no matter how you look at it? It was the right decision to dump a guy like you."
When Sarah said this, my brother chuckled. "I'm glad to hear that." "I'm glad I got away from you too. Thanks for breaking up with me." She didn't expect to be told something like that.
"What?"
Sarah was upset. And then, my brother, who was full of pride, took offense to my confident remarks. "Brother, you're really jealous, but you're just acting tough. You must be really grateful that I took your girlfriend, right?" He hit back. "Well, who would enjoy being cuckolded? I guess I'm just a pervert, and I'm in the minority." I was frustrated in my own way, but when I think about it dispassionately, I'm so glad that I broke up with such a terrible woman. When I said this to her, she got upset and shouted,
"No! What the hell are you talking about?"
"Because, as you said earlier, you called me an old man, and you were always pushing me around and acting superior, right? If we were married, there would be grounds for divorce and I could get compensation for it. When we were dating, I wondered how much worse her attitude would have gotten after we got married." My brother's face turned blue at the remark. "What? Like domestic violence?" Sarah said quickly.
"Don't believe what he's saying. I'm not that kind of woman. I treasure the person I love. I treasure you, Dan. I'm not that kind of terrible woman. I am a woman who treasures the person she loves. Don't you treasure me, Dan?"
she asked while denying it. Before Dan could get a word in edgewise with Sarah, I started to play a certain audio.
"Don't get carried away with your ugly habit, old man." I'd rather have a young man than an old man like you. I'm sorry. Tim, you're the only one for me. I'm sorry I'm such a bad girlfriend. I really want to marry you, Tim.
My brother heard the audio. Is this Sarah? He asked in a trembling voice. That's what she said when Sarah and I were dating. One day, she'd say something terrible. The next, she'd say something sweet and ask for forgiveness. That's how she does it. I believe Sarah didn't think I had prepared something like this. She got upset and started shouting at me.
Don't you joke around, old man. You have such a terrible personality, don't you? I'm so glad I didn't marry you. You're ugly, you're an old man, and you have a bad personality. There's no point in you living.
Just as Sarah said that, the door to the dressing room burst open. Sarah's parents came in. Sarah, cut it out. Don't make a scene in front of our relatives anymore.
What? What do you mean?
She asked, confused. Sarah's parents continued. I don't know what you guys were talking about back and forth, but it's being broadcast to the entire floor in the building.
No, that can't be true.
Sarah's face turned blue. Sarah's father said, Everyone attending today heard it all. I am disappointed that you turned out to be such a vulgar woman. Right now, you're going to go and apologize to everyone attending. Come on. Sarah's parents yelled, grabbing Sarah and dragging her out of the dressing room. My brother sat there, dazed and collapsed on his knees, slumping over. Sarah and my younger brother paid a heavy price for their actions. Nobody felt sorry for them. Their relatives, colleagues, and friends all distanced themselves from them in disgust. Sarah was also demoted from her position as a customer service representative due to her lack of integrity. My younger brother also lost the trust of his friends. A man who sleeps with his wife's older brother is someone without morals and is not to be trusted, they thought. Their friends' partners also became wary of the cheating, and no one invited them to hang out anymore. My younger brother also lost interest in Sarah when he found out that she was a tormentor. They eventually broke up. However, they had already filed for marriage, so it ended up being a formal separation. My brother had been cut off from our parents, his sister, and of course me. He is currently a freelancer living in a cheap apartment and forced to lead a frugal life. Now, how did our conversation get overheard at the wedding venue? It was thanks to my sister and her husband helping me. In fact, my sister's husband, my brother-in-law, runs a company that installs sound systems. Besides doing sound for a large gig and concerts in the area which we lived, they also were in charge of sound for most of the weddings in the area. The wedding venue used by my brother and Sarah this time had the sound system set up by my brother-in-law's company. My brother-in-law explained the situation to his staff, and they installed a small pin mic on me. They were able to broadcast our entire conversation to the audience. I didn't expect Sarah to act so ugly. The operation was a success. I succeeded in taking revenge. After that, I decided to get down to business. I was promoted at work and placed in charge of a project. I started going out with a woman I worked with. She's the same age as me and also divorced. The reason for the divorce was her husband's harassment and adultery. She's very sweet, and of course, she doesn't have sudden changes in attitude or outbursts. We haven't talked about marriage yet, but I feel like I can be with her forever. But I'm no longer obsessed with marriage anymore. I'm going to enjoy the time I spend with her as much as possible. Sarah was one hell of a bitch, and then there was my brother, who had to be the first in everything. He was also troublesome. However, the revenge at the wedding was very successful, and I felt very refreshed and vindicated. Have a wonderful time with your new girlfriend. I hope you will build a new life and find happiness.